Hello and welcome to the second ever Go Home Show podcast. My name is Will Brazier. You won't recognise me unless you saw me on a boat in Greece. That's right, I am back. I was on a boat in Greece, but also you might have seen me on Friday Night SmackDown wearing a black balaclava. I can't say too much right now, but more into that as we get there. This is your one-stop shop for all things professional wrestling, with weekly chats with WWE stars, all the news you might have missed on the previous 7 days, and then look back at some of the most infamous moments in history. But this is the Go Home Show. I can't do it alone. First of all, is a man who is actually a professional wrestler who would and has threatened me before with a steel chair. It's Chris Anderson. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to very quickly say that you offered to be hit by a steel chair. That was your idea. I'm just the facilitator of these things. I'm in no way the aggressor.
Next up is the most cynical man in professional wrestling, Michael the Crusher Henson. Michael, what have you been cynical about this week?
Not a lot. It's been a busy week. Looking forward to going through the past week's action of the old Graps.
The old Graps. He can say that now because he is officially Dominik Mysterio's best friend. More on that later. And next, the nicest man on this podcast. I've called him that and we're going to stick with it. It's Elliott Ames. How are you, Elliott?
Yeah, I'm doing good, thank you, brother. Glad to see you back on here after abandoning us last week.
Yeah, well, I can't go into too much detail, guys, but you might see me soon. There's been a lot to digest. We are moments away from Summerslam. This is, of course, going out on a Thursday, and we're all eagerly anticipating that. And it's going to take place, well, they call it I want to call it the Thunder Bastard Dome. Crusher, tell me a bit more about it.
Yeah, so I think it was on Monday they announced that they're going to bring the Thunderdome into WWE, which is taking place at the Amway Center in Orlando, where I have been. And
so I listened back to the podcast last week, and I think there was about two things. Ric Flair got brought up, and you said that you met him within about 2 minutes. And we are, Chris, are we in about three and a half minutes in, and he's got another name drop in there?
We are 2 minutes and 2 seconds in.
Wow, that's a new record.
I'll continue doing it every week. So they're taking inspiration from the NBA and chatting with Chris before the NHL. So fans are going to be appearing on the like this,
isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be like this. Like, we're trying to get on. Chris is trying to get on. But unfortunately, tickets went on sale at 3 o'clock in the morning the other night, so we were asleep when it went up. But yeah, it's going to be virtual crowds, it's going to be light boards, it's going to be drones, it's going to be lasers. And you know, when WWE do things, they go big or go home, so it's going to be a magnificent production.
I mean, you know how long pay-per-views are? Right, so we do this podcast for 45 minutes and we're on it. Imagine just forgetting you're on and you're at the side of SummerSlam ring. Would anyone, I mean, Chris, it sounds a bit dangerous to me.
No, well, I think the one that is probably the riskier part of the WWE is there might be one or two who perhaps see the opportunity to maybe show something that shouldn't be allowed on pay-per-view. So you would hope that WWE will set up like a tape delay to make it work. My feeling is the reason they're starting to do this on SmackDown rather than just unveiling it at SummerSlam is that SmackDown is essentially the one where they're working out what will go wrong. So SmackDown could be the funniest show of the year. Like I've got visions of like drones falling out of the sky. I've got like weird things on Zoom calls around the world, like freaking sharks with laser beams. Like SmackDown could be the greatest show of all time.
I mean, they have got quite a strict sort of list. Like, just to summarise it, you can't share or forward links. No one else in the household can be using the internet for streaming during the broadcast. You've got to be respectful.
How are they going to manage that?
This is what it's in. Be respectful at all times. No smoking. Appearing intoxicated will result in the feed's termination. No political statements. No obscene gestures. No cursing. No promoting a third-party brand. So we couldn't promote the podcast, for example. Proper attire must be worn at all times, and no logos or graphics in the background. There is like a huge list of what you can and can't do, and it is quite an interesting read. And I think they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 8 events coming up. So we've got SmackDown on Friday, TakeOver, SummerSlam, Raw, NXT, Friday Night SmackDown, then we've got Payback next Sunday, and then Raw on our bank holiday Monday, but the 31st of August in America.
E-Dog, to give him credit, I mean, like, this is an arena we're talking about, and WWE have built excitement around it. Like, we're excited to see what an arena looks like with no people in it. They always seem to pull out of the bag, don't they?
Yeah, you do have to give him a little bit of credit. I feel like it could have the look of like those sort of like sci-fi movies where there's like a big sort of sports action going on and everything. It could look naff. It could look really silly. We've seen it a little bit in the football during lockdown and everything with virtual crowds. I'm hoping it looks all right. I think they just need to have the right number of people on screen. The last thing you want is like 4 people on like either side of the arena. Then it just looks a bit ominous, like you're being watched by Zordon from the Power Rangers or something. So as long as they get that right, it could look okay. I'm curious at the very least.
I'll do it well. Right, moving on. More news this week. Renee Young departing WWE. How many W's are we going to put on there? WWW. She's leaving WWE. E-Dog, I know you're a big fan of hers, and you got some kind words to say about her.
Yeah, I think she's one of the best announcers that they've had in recent years. You know, she was the first female member of the main roster to announce team. She's done a fantastic job. I really like the stuff she did on Talking Smack a few years ago. Some absolutely incredible moments, especially that promo with The Miz and Daniel Bryan and everything. And it's really unfortunate because I do feel she's insanely talented. And a lot of people are bringing the speculation because obviously she's married to Jon Moxley that she might be joining AEW. But as far as I'm aware, and I could be wrong on this, but I believe she's contracted under Fox anyway. She's not contracted by WWE. So I wouldn't be surprised if she starts getting more of a push within Fox, maybe within ESPN, maybe goes into a more traditional broadcasting route. And she's clearly got the skill set for it. But yeah, it's still a real shame because she's been a breath of fresh air on the commentary team over these past few years.
Yeah, no, I think we'd all agree with that, wouldn't we? She's going to be sadly missed on that. But moving on, things move quickly in the WWE, and we've got SummerSlam. We've also got a takeover. Chris, I know this is very dear to your heart, the North America title match. It's another ladder match. Lots of contenders. Which way do you see this one going?
What a good question. I think, given how they introduced the belt in a similar way with, I think it was a 6-man ladder match back there and Adam Cole coming in to take the belt, I think they'll go with a more established name to take the belt again and then use that to build up the guys who are coming up. So my head says Johnny Gargano will win it, but I could see Damian Priest as the other option to win it. But I think just when you have a vacant title and using the setup that they had last time when they first introduced the belt with a big ladder match, a couple of big guys in there for some hot spots, and some obviously very experienced guys and some just generally very talented guys. I think this is a really, really good way to essentially reset the division, reset the belt. I think this could well be match of the weekend above everything else.
So I think that Bronson Reed is going to take the title. Like, I remember seeing him on the Indies over here, and like, he's another.
Put
big
that one
guy.
down, Chris. That's another one there.
But like, yeah, he's a big guy who can move, and I'd love to see him have the title. Interestingly, Velveteen Dream was part of that original match as well, so there could be a chance that he might pick up the title.
It's interesting. Do we think there's going to be? I mean, on the NXT, it's takeover. Then we got SummerSlam, and it is a time where they do tend to call people up. Is there any names that anyone would like to throw into the mix for? Well, can we say it's a main roster call up or a main roster shuffle?
I have 2 on this. So I have my bold predictions for the weekend. So the first one I'm going to say is Keith Lee. I feel like this is a less bold prediction, just because obviously he was the first ever singles double champion in NXT. They've obviously brought in Karrion Kross. They've built him up into this big, almost like supernatural monster. I think they'll want to keep that momentum going and have him as a long-term champ. And then obviously with the work, as we said on the podcast last week, the work he did with Roman Reigns at Survivor Series and with Brock Lesnar at Royal Rumble, the reaction he got from the crowd, I think Vince and the booking team will want some of that on probably on Fox, on SmackDown. So I could see Keith Lee losing and moving over to SmackDown. The other name, now this is my bold prediction for the week. This is legitimately bold. I think we will have a new leader of the Undisputed Era by Sunday evening. So my prediction is, and I don't think that's a big enough prediction, so I do have a bold prediction. My prediction is this. Obviously, we've got Pat McAfee, we've got Adam Cole. I think Undisputed Era turn on Adam Cole. They kick him out, and the new leader of the Undisputed Era will be the Prince Finn Balor. I think he's too big a name to not be featured on a takeover. So I think they'll want him in some role. I think they bring him in. I think he's part of the way they kick out Adam Cole. Obviously, it harks back to Bullet Club, which is kind of, I feel like, how Undisputed Era has been molded around. Obviously, very successful in tag belts, dominating in singles belts, perhaps unscrupulous with the rules, some might say. So I think they like that callback. I think they'll use Finn Balor, take over Undisputed Era, and Adam Cole will move over to Raw on the Monday after SummerSlam.
I'm a big fan of that, Chris. Big fan. And now you've said it, I really want to see it. I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth when you said that, but now I really want to see that. Just think, adding one in here, Io Shirai, I think that if she drops the title against Dakota Kai, they'll move up and she'll then sort of join forces with Asuka or go ahead one-on-one with Asuka. I'd like to see that heading into like Survivor Series. And then Dakota Kai picking up a feud with Tegan Nox, who's going to be a future podcast guest as well.
Love that. I mean, I think we've just broken the internet there with those predictions, Chris. And if it happens, that could put us on the map. Right, next on SummerSlam as well, we've also got Bray Wyatt in one of his incarnations, which this time will be The Fiend against Braun Strowman. But of course, Alexa Bliss has been heavily involved ever since the horror show Extreme Rules, but it's been long-term booking. I absolutely loved it, from Bray Wyatt coming out as his old character. That scene we had at Money in the Bank, which is a pay-per-view I know Elliott hates, but we wouldn't have had that moment, Elliott. So just stop denying me a good times. But they're going into this. I think it's a perfectly woven story as well, isn't it? I feel like The Fiend's going to win it just because of the way we've been leading up, but with Alexa Bliss in there, sort of a wild card. Strowman shaved his head. What does that mean? So many stories. Which way? Why is he bald? Why is she here? I don't know about you guys, but I think it's been booked perfectly.
I think one of the fears I had with Strowman and Bray in a long-term feud is we've seen a lot of it beforehand, and it's very difficult when you have a monster in The Fiend who you want to book very, very strong, and the monster among men who you want to book very, very strong. It's very hard to come out of that with a clean winner. I think introducing Alexa Bliss into this, almost in a what side of the battle is she on, adds a really good element to it. So I've really, really enjoyed it.
I just really like the direction they're going with the whole stuff from this past week where Braun lifts up Bliss and threatening to throw her, and then that cut to black as she gets thrown, and then obviously then Bray then turns up. It's like they're really trying to expand their creativity with The Fiend. Every single week they're trying to find new ways to make him seem more over the top and supernatural. You know, he's reaching like Undertaker levels of crazy effects and crazy atmosphere. And I mean, personally, I'd hope that eventually leads to him maybe facing Taker, because I don't think Taker's actually retired, personally.
Good God, we've had some bold predictions on today's show. And speaking of bold, Crusher, there's a hair versus hair match on the SummerSlam pay-per-view. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, it's going to be a unique match, to say the least. I think it's going to be between Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose. Obviously, they've been feuding for a long time now, which goes back to the Otis storyline and Dolph Ziggler and the whole Valentine's Day getting stood up and whatnot. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the match. It's a unique stipulation. Obviously, it's happened before. Kurt Angle's been in one, CM Punk, obviously the Battle of the Billionaires as well. So yeah, interesting to see where it goes. And there was a slightly disturbing Photoshop from BT Sport on Twitter. Go check it out if you want to see it. And it's how they look bald. And yeah, it takes some getting used to. I'm going to put Mandy to win, so Sonya gets head.
Sonya bald. I think it's going to be Sonya bald.
I'm the opposite. I'm saying Mandy.
Of course, you're all going opposite.
I mean, it depends on any interference as well from the outside, like if Dolph and Otis get involved as well.
Right, next we are on to Convince Me. Each member of the team will bring an answer, and we will need to try and convince each other that our argument is the best. And it's SummerSlam this weekend, Chris. So we're starting there, aren't we?
Yes, I think that this week we should try and convince each other as to what is the greatest SummerSlam match of all time. Now, obviously, there are classics out there. I'm sure everyone has their own thoughts. I am going to kick this week off because I want to, with the correct answer.
Can I just interject here, Chris? Can we set a 45-second time limit per person?
I will do. I feel like that's not for me. I feel like that's maybe aimed at someone else.
No, I mean, just in general, just to keep it nice.
Just in general, right. Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, I'm up for a 45-second time limit.
I'll get the timer out.
You give me a 3, 2, 1, and then I will explain to you why you were all wrong.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
The greatest SummerSlam match of all time is quite simply the TLC tag match from SummerSlam 2000. We're talking the Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian, and the Dudleys. Now, there is one very, very good reason for this is this match, there's two very good reasons. It was the first ever TLC match. We're talking a match that defined a whole pay-per-view, and no, Elliott, you cannot put the TLC pay-per-view in the bin. That's not happening. Secondly, this is a match that made 6 superstars. How do you know they're superstars? Well, let's go back to WrestleMania 33, is it, Crush? What would you say happened there? Oh, the Hardy Boys returned to the biggest pop, maybe in WrestleMania history. What happens a few years beforehand? The Dudley Boys returned. They put Xavier Woods through a table, biggest pop. And this year, Edge returns, Royal Rumble, massive pop. You all know I'm right. We can all go home now.
E-Dog, you're next. 3, 2, 1, go.
Well, simply put, mine is the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. The best there ever will be. It is Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at SummerSlam 1992. It's very clear. It's Wembley Stadium. It's iconic. That finish at the end after a grueling technical masterpiece where Bret Hart ends up carrying Bulldog throughout the entire thing after being on a 72-hour pain bender leading into the match. He calls it all the way through, and every single spot is full of tension, full of anticipation. It just works so well, and we get the face winning when after Bret Hart eventually turns heel despite being beloved in the UK. It's just an absolute masterpiece, and it's the match you think of every time SummerSlam comes up, and you have to admit that.
Mr. Brazier, you're up next. 3, 2, 1, go.
I think Elliott looks more something like out of Beatles Yellow Submarine than Bret Hart there, but that's just my 2 penny. I'm going for Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk. I think I have to choose a match where I was actually alive and kicking for it, and like these two are probably still in their mother's wombs. Lesnar versus Punk, brutal beatdowns of each other, and I didn't think CM Punk was going to win, but such as WWE wrestling, they draw you in and they bring you that bit closer, and for a brief moment I thought CM Punk was going to beat Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman getting involved, being choked around the neck with his tie, getting involved, breaking up pinfalls. We'd had the Summer of Punk, we thought it was all over, but this match, even though he had them dodgy sideburns, which I don't think many people pull off, and I don't think he pulled off either, but I'm willing to let that slide because the first match I thought of when you said good SummerSlam matches was Brock Lesnar versus CM Punk.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
Shawn Michaels, Triple H, SummerSlam 2002. Shawn Michaels returns at Vengeance earlier that year after being out of wrestling for 4 years due to a back injury. He helps Triple H go at the Raw brand to reform D-Generation X. Triple H turns on Michaels to get rid of it. Then he puts Michaels' head through a car. It's an unsanctioned street fight at SummerSlam. It's Michaels wrestling in jeans. How can you not love that? The match was incredible. He then goes on to Elimination Chamber that November in Survivor Series, the first ever Elimination Chamber match, and he'd win his first WWE Championship in 5 years. It launches a second run and chapter of HBK's career at 37, and arguably his best run and string of matches ever.
And time. I'm going to give some props there to Crush being the only one who could actually keep to 45 seconds. However, it doesn't make him right. TLC is still the greatest SummerSlam match of all time. However, it is not up to us. It is up to you, the people, to decide what is the greatest SummerSlam match of all time. Is it Punk versus Lesnar 2013 in Will Brazier? Is it Shawn Michaels versus Triple H SummerSlam 2002 from your boy Crush? Is it Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog at SummerSlam 1992 from your man Elliott? Or is the right answer, the correct answer, the best match at SummerSlam of all time? Is it the TLC match between the Hardy Boys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian at SummerSlam 2000? Let us know on Twitter at GoHomeShowPod. Nailed it first time. You're welcome. Let us know what you think.
SummerSlam may just be a matter of days away, but we're spoilt for another pay-per-view on the 30th of August as Payback comes live from the Amway Centre in Orlando. And how better to enjoy watching along with the company of some fresh and delicious beers from all over the globe. In this crazy English heat, there's no need to worry about heading to the shops to stock up. Beer 52 will bring the beer to you. They're offering a free case of 8 craft beers sourced and curated from the best brewers on the planet. All you need to do is go to beer52.com/The Go Home Show and cover $5.95 for postage. Each case is delivered direct to your doorstep, so no need to leave the house. Looking to stock up? Now's your chance. Beer 52 is the world's most popular craft beer discovery club with 150,000 members that they send a brand new case to every month. Each month's case has a different theme. Past themes have included beer from New Zealand, South Africa, Korea, and all over the USA and Europe. So that's beer52.com, the word beer, then the numbers 52.com/The Go Home Show for free beers.
So it is that time again for Wrestling Room 101. Every week, a different member of the panel will bring with them one thing that they want gone from the world of wrestling. They present it to the group. One person will then decide whether or not it enters Room 101. This week, that person is Mr. Will Brazier. He is the deciding factor. However, there is a twist. Whoever loses from the previous week's Room 101 will be banned from having any input in the following weeks. Last week, Mr. Elliott Ames attempted to put the Money in the Bank pay-per-view into Room 101, and I decided that this was a stupid idea. So he is banned for any input this week. However, I will put myself in his shoes for this week, and I will bring something to the table for Wrestling Room 101. Now, those of you who know me know that I am probably, I don't want to say it, but probably one of the most underrated tag team wrestlers in the world today. Don't worry about my poor moveset, lack of cardio, or any real ability, but in my head, I am wildly underrated. So tag team wrestling is very, very dear to my heart. So what I don't like to see is when two singles competitors who have not wrestled with each other before in their lifetimes come together and defeat the reigning tag team champions. So what I am putting into Room 101, or what I am putting forward to go into Room 101, is singles wrestlers teaming up and suddenly becoming better tag team wrestlers than actual tag teams. This week we saw it on Raw when Sasha and Bayley, the reigning women's tag team champions in WWE, were defeated by Shayna Baszler and Asuka. Now, this is not me saying that singles wrestlers can never team up together. This is not me saying they can never be successful. What I'm saying here is tag teams should always outperform singles wrestlers. Singles wrestlers can still beat them in tag teams. They just don't do it clean. There's a mistake, a miscommunication, a ref distraction, all this kind of stuff. But when tag teams are beaten by singles wrestlers, that just ruins the idea of the tag team champions. Now, in the world of WWE at the moment, the best tag team, the best female tag team is Shayna Baszler and Asuka, despite the fact that realistically they have no backstory together. Sasha and Bayley are have probably the deepest backstory within women's wrestling at the moment in WWE. Like, if I remember rightly, they were the first women to main event a TakeOver. They're the first ever Iron Women's match. Like, this goes back and back and back. They've feuded, they've teamed up, they've feuded, they've been together, they split up. Like, these two are in each other's brains all the time. Whether they're on the same team or not, they live inside each other's brains rent-free. And then Shayna Baszler and Asuka rock up together, and suddenly they're oh my God, I'm going even more into this. Not only are they defeating the tag champions, Bayley is tapping out, and she's not even tapping out to the number one contender for the singles championships. Like, this just blows my mind. I want it gone. Tag team should always be singles in tag team wrestling. That is it. That's it. Try and prove me wrong, Cross. You know you can't. Get out of here.
Well, there it goes. So I disagree with your point because this match helped it helped develop the current feud, but then also is helping plant the seeds for future feuds. So obviously, this is because Bayley and Sasha Banks have started the promo talking about how both women are going to beat Asuka at SummerSlam. Baszler came out and she said, no matter who wins Sunday, she's getting the next shot. So we're already developing the storyline for Sunday, and then we're already looking forward ahead and potentially Baszler becoming champion. So, like, it's helping develop the story, which is going to be massive come SummerSlam, because no doubt there's going to be something going on, like there always is when Sasha and Bayley are around. And it was probably one of the better segments of the shows on Raw. Like, it's also helping the feud between Baszler and Nia Jax, because Nia Jax they spotted each other, and I think she tore down one of the perspective glasses and get took out. And it also helps Asuka pursuing both titles take centre stage. And to be fair, Asuka and Baszler make an interesting combination. Like, probably, arguably, two of the toughest women on the roster. But then, overall, I do think that singles wrestlers should come together at times. Like, see Aleister Black and Kevin Owens a few months ago. They're part of a whole bigger storyline. This is all part of the whole big storyline, and probably inevitably is going to be part of Sasha and Bayley breaking up and dropping the tag team titles. Because while it's good having Bayley DOS belts or whatever she's referred herself to, I think that going into WrestleMania next year, they're going to be split up again, and then we're going to have a perfect feud, and they're going to tear the house down at WrestleMania.
So I agree, because I'm able to take someone else's point and agree with them. I don't just blindly disagree with them, Crush, unlike some people. I agree with everything you've just said there. This is the whole concept in itself is a great way to build the feud. I have no issue with that. What I'm asking is there no better way to do everything you've said there, i.e. Nia Jax and Baszler building up, which is fine. Baszler getting over Bayley, which we assume will lead into what's going on next with those two. Asuka and Sasha, the breakup of Sasha and Bayley, all those things. Absolutely, I 100% agree they should be happening on the show. They did not need to job out the women's tag team champions to do all of that. And that is why it needs to go into room 101.
I mean, I'll come in for a counterpoint, then we'll let Will make a decision. Like, I pretty much sort of agree with what you said, but at the same time, they didn't really job out. They've lost a match. It's all part of storyline development. The Iconics will more than likely...
They're the champions! Champions that
like,
lost clean. Champions that lost clean. Will, you are the man in power. What is your decision?
Well, I think this might shock the man himself as well, but I actually do agree with Crush here. I think WWE moves far too fast for anyone to remember in 6 weeks' time that Sasha and Bayley, as you say, jobbed out. And that phrase alone swayed me towards Crush. I think this is built for the women's division. This is building like a new sort of top tier of talent where Shayna Baszler probably hasn't even, got the rub and the run that she deserves. So it's sort of building that with Asuka and creating this new level of talent. I love it. I think Chris has said before when we've had chats about, we wouldn't have had Sheamus and Cesaro, Cena and Shawn Michaels springs to mind as well. And sometimes it's just done to elevate the tag division. And to be fair, the women's tag team division needs a bit of elevation. So, Chris, shove it up yours. It's not going in.
So I believe that is 2 victories from 2 weeks. Thank you very much. Let's throw it over to our audience. What do you think? Do you agree with Chris's point about tag teams losing to 2 single wrestlers should go to room 101 or do you agree with my point that it shouldn't? Go get in touch with us in the comments on the podcast on YouTube at Sport Wrestling or on Twitter at Go Home Show Pod, and we'll give you your feedback next week.
Right, it's time for the quiz. I wasn't part of it last week because I wasn't here, but I believe I am speaking to the champion, and that man goes by the name of E-Dog Ames.
Yes, you are right, Will. I am the inaugural wrestling quiz champion forevermore. So I have the honour this week of choosing the topic for the wrestling quiz. The team will go head-to-head each week in a quick quiz format based around a specific topic. For example, the topic could be hardcore champions, and they need to say how many hardcore champions they can name, bidding a shot against each other. Chris might say he can name 5. Will might say he can name 6. Crush might say he can't beat 6. Chris goes for 7. And then he gets the chance to win for the day. Now, obviously, we're about to go into SummerSlam. And I didn't really plan for SummerSlam. But the word slam has been used in the list I want you guys to name from. You are going to be naming the Grand Slam champions in WWE. And to make it more difficult, we are going for the revised format. which which was established in 2015, where you need to win a primary championship, either the WWF or WWE title or the Universal title, the WWE Tag Team or SmackDown Tag Team titles, as well as the Intercontinental and United States titles. I believe there are 14 names you can choose from, and these are the male members as well. This isn't within the women's division. So there are 14. How many can you guys name?
Start low because it goes to a bidding war. I'm going to go 5.
I'll have 6.
Come on, lads.
I'll have 6. I'll have 6.
I'll have 7.
I'll go 8.
I'm tapping. I'll tap out there.
I'd love to beat Crush, but there's nothing more better than Crush thinking he's going to win and then losing. So I think I'll go with that.
Yep.
So remember, Crush, you've got 14 to choose from.
And I've got to get 8.
You've got to get 8 of them.
Okay.
3, 2, 1, go.
Kofi Kingston, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, 4. Chris Jericho,
Yes.
Randy Orton,
Yes. That's 6.
Kurt Angle,
Yes.
The Miz,
Yes. That's 8.
Very
Quite a good way of
good.
doing it, actually, going through the Shield to get you good, like little basis there, wasn't it? A little bit of breathing space.
To go through the list. To go through the list in its entirety.
Look at his face. He's loving
Look at
it.
the sweat on that.
Ear to it. I've never seen Crush smile like that.
To go through the list in its entirety, you could have had Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero, Edge, Big Show, The Miz, Daniel Bryan, Chris Jericho, Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, Seth Rollins, Jeff Hardy, Kofi Kingston, and Rey Mysterio. Remember, this is the revised 2015 format.
Cena not on it.
he's not winning the Intercontinental title yet.
Congratulations, Crush. You are now the Buzz Aldrin to me being the Neil Armstrong of the wrestling quiz. It's an honour for you to become the second champion, but you're not the first.
Right now, we have got an exclusive interview with a star that is taking part in SummerSlam this weekend. Who could it be? Well, Mick, the Crusher Henson, sat down with Dominik Mysterio.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction, Will. How are you today, Dominic?
Very good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. The weather could be better in Manchester, but I'm sure it's better where you are.
Hey, I can't complain here in San Diego.
Have any other WWE superstars in the back been giving you like little tips and tricks ahead of your debut?
Everyone in the back has been, extremely awesome with giving me tips and helping me out with the little things here and there. And specifically, Randy Orton has always been there for me. He's always been very nice and, helping me with my promos and what I can do better. So I'm always listening to him. Aleister Black is another guy. He's always, ever since I started doing things back in the day with Samoa Joe and with Brock Lesnar before this Seth Rollins feud, Aleister would help me with the little things here and there that I could do a little bit better, just like nitpicky things that can just take my game to another level. Lance Storm, he's always texting me, look, after every show, he always texts me like, good job, or, keeping up with me and what I'm doing. So, guys like that.
And can you give us an insight into what your gear is going to be like at SummerSlam?
Oh, I can't give you guys too much, but I'll give you. I'm actually looking at it right now. It arrived in the mail today, so I'll give you guys a little. It's some royal blue and a little black. I'll give you guys that.
And obviously, if you win on Sunday, could we see you in the ring as a full-time superstar?
Right now, I think that would have to be a question for later, because at this point, we don't know what's going to happen after SummerSlam. Maybe they could move me down to developmental, or I don't know what happens. So that'll all be in their hands once this happens.
And obviously, the late great Eddie Guerrero. What are your sort of childhood memories of him? Because obviously, you've been quite close with your dad.
Mm-hmm. Eddie was around a lot of the time. When WWE would come down to San Diego, he would stay here at the house. I remember waking up in the mornings and having breakfast burritos with him in the kitchen while my mom is making them. I remember after we did the angle for my custody, he always saw me playing with my PSP. He bought me like video games for him. He bought me FIFA for it. After we did promos, he would always give me candy to make sure I was okay. So Eddie was a great human being.
And obviously, if he was still around, he'd be able to pass on his talent. And he was such a good sort of wrestler. Everything about him was perfect. What was your sort of favourite Eddie moment?
Man, I loved when he had his Intercontinental title run with Edge and with RVD, and right as he was coming out as that the Latino Heat with China. I think that was him just making his way all the way up, because he was already a superstar, but I think that just took him to another level. And he's always just been made everything look so vicious and snug, and I loved his work.
And a topic on this week's podcast that we're doing is the best SummerSlam match ever. What would yours be and why?
Best SummerSlam match ever. I hate to be biased, but my dad and Kurt Angle tore the house down in 2002, man. They opened the show and they killed it. But I would have to go with either that one, or was it Rock and Lesnar too that had a match at SummerSlam? Was it the year before that? Was it that 2002?
I think it was the same one, because I think that was Brock's first title reign.
Yeah, that match was awesome too. They tore it down. But I don't know. That's a hard one. It's a lot of matches. But definitely my dad and Kurt Angle I'd put at the top. They killed it.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Dominik. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, and good luck in your match on Sunday.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Crush, great stuff. How was it speaking to Dominik Mysterio? Is that something you'd ever thought you'd say in this crazy year of 2020?
No, it isn't. But yeah, he was great to chat to. Lovely guy. Some really interesting points he made about like who he's been sort of learning from backstage. Randy Orton obviously has the persona of don't care about anyone at the moment, so that was quite interesting. And Aleister Black as well. The future plans. He was so close. He was so close to saying what his future plan was. He's so close to actually showing us his gear as well, which is pretty interesting. And then obviously Eddie Guerrero. What a legend he is, buying him the FIFA for PSP, and how he treated him after that angle at 2005 SummerSlam. And obviously his best SummerSlam match was, of course, he's got to be biased with his dad's choice in 2002 against Kurt Angle.
That was one of my favourite matches. But that kicked off
what he says there as well. What he said there. So he was saying Kurt versus Rey was his pick of best SummerSlam matches, yeah? So he disagreed with you so much, Crush, about your choice, that your choice wasn't even the best SummerSlam match of 2002. That's how wrong you were.
I mean, but also...
He is slightly biased over his dad. Yeah. I'll stick up for him. I'm sticking up for Chris quite a lot today.
Thank you.
Maybe it's a new me. PSP there. Very retro. And now it is time for the retro recap, guys. Did you see what I did?
Seamless.
1992 was the year. I was one. I was there. No, I wasn't. It was at Wembley, which is something that I think we all yearn for now, Chris. But a pay-per-view in England, one of the main ones. What time to be alive?
It's just, do you know what? It's that image of just the sea of people in Wembley is so iconic, and it boggles my mind that 18 years on and it's never ever come back. They sold, I think it was like 65,000 tickets in 5 days. Like in 5 days. And this is before the internet. It's mad how quick, like it was just, it's nonsense. It's nonsense, and they need to bring a pay-per-view, whatever it is, back. We'll take anything. We'll take Money in the Bank, and we'll put Elliott front and centre.
So, sorry, just speaking of UK pay-per-views, Chris, I'm sorry that you weren't part of this, but obviously me, Crusher and Elliott work on sport, and we have done for quite a while. And we did think at one moment there was a UK pay-per-view coming back. It was a gorilla position, wasn't it? basically tweeted out a picture of, you know, when you go to a WWE live event and there's a picture and it says intermission with the WWE logo, and he tweeted out going, "Oh my God, WWE coming with a brand new pay-per-view, intermission," and the tweet went mad. And we were literally, to be fair, I was going to pin it on Mick, but we were all absolutely losing our stuff. Like, oh my God, intermission is coming to England. And it was just an intermission. I mean, we've had the takeovers now. Well, we're supposed to be having a takeover for WWE UK.
And you've got NXT UK, which is in itself is an incredible thing. But there is a difference between like Blackpool Ballroom and Wembley, full of people, to see Drew McIntyre kick the head off of Randy Orton, or to see, you know, Pete Dunne's main roster, if that's what you want to call it, debut or something like that. It's mad to me how it's never, like you said, how wrestling's never come home. And no, we're not the home of wrestling, but we're going to blag it because we'll blag everything else. Everything else is ours, so we'll have wrestling now as well. I think as well, you forget how completely nonsense the wrestling industry was back in 1992 as well. Like today, you talk about wrestlers and you see them as like these are athletes, like real athletes with like real training plans. They're doing this and that and the other. Some of the stories you hear of backstage from that era. I mean, Elliott was talking about it earlier with Davey Boy Smith. The guy couldn't remember the entire match because of a substance abuse fueled binge he'd been on for the last 3 days. It was the last time we saw the Legion of Doom for, 3 years? Because Hawk had failed a drug test the day before, I think it was, knew he was going to fail this drug test, and so decided the best way to deal with this situation was to take a bunch of sedatives before his match in the locker room very openly, then ride a motorbike down to the ring before putting a match on. Like, it was just a different world of nonsense back then.
Yeah, Chris, it was just an absolutely weird time, and especially when you're watching the show, it feels like a different era whilst you're watching it. It feels a bit more cartoonish, feels a bit more like a Saturday morning, you know, cartoon, or a bit comic booky as of the time. And when you look back and see the actual pay-per-view itself, it just has a bit of a vintage feel to it, in spite of the stuff that was going on backstage. As I mentioned before, and as you just mentioned then, the stuff with Davey Boy Smith going into that match against Bret the Hitman Hart. One interesting thing about this show, though, is it originally wasn't meant to happen at Wembley. It was meant to take place at Maryland over in the States. Apparently, when Bret Hart was meant to go into that match, he was expecting to be dropping the belt to Shawn Michaels because he was meant to be the next person to get that upper mid-card push. But when he heard the murmurings of it taking place at Wembley, he chose to suggest to Vince McMahon, we should give the belt to Davey Boy Smith in the main event, in his home country, in front of a sellout crowd. And that atmosphere and that pop when he wins it is absolutely fantastic, which is why, obviously, I think that's the best SummerSlam match of all time. However, the whole atmosphere was fantastic, even leading up to that match. It feels more like a World Cup game or a Champions League match. You know, you're hearing all the horns, you're hearing people just chanting like crazy over everything. It's constant noise.
That always goes back to even now, like when I speak to the talent or Will interviews them, they're always saying how good that English atmosphere is, and it always has been, always will be, because like we don't get it that often. So when it does come, like when we went to Manchester, when you saw AJ win the title, and I was front row, like the pop, everyone just goes mental, because as much as it's good watching it with mates or whatever it is, that was actually being there live, just let loose.
I mean, as well, it also brings home the fact that I think what Chris was saying the other week with Drew McIntyre not getting that moment in front of a live audience, and then if you take that sort of Davey Smith atmosphere and apply that to Drew McIntyre, hopefully next year or whenever it is, it will blow the dome off the Thunderdome.
So that's all we've had time for on this week's pod. Now it's over to you, our loyal listeners, our audience, our Go Home Show podcast universe. We want to know from you, what was the best SummerSlam match of all time? Do you agree with Chris that it was TLC at SummerSlam 2000? Do you agree with Will that it was Punk Lesnar at SummerSlam 2013? Do you agree with me, which obviously you will do, Shawn Michaels against Triple H in 2002? Or do you agree with Elliott and it's Bret Hart against British Bulldog, SummerSlam 92, which we just covered in the Retro Recap? Or do you have your own suggestion? Let us know in a review, in the YouTube comments, tweet us at Go Home Show Pod. Let us know what your thoughts are. Could you have beaten me in the quiz? Like, slide in my DMs at MP Henson with what I should bring up next week. Should tag team wrestlers be losing to singles wrestlers? Do you agree with Chris and that should be in Room 101? Or do you agree with me and it should stay out? Which obviously I won again. Don't want to keep mentioning it. I also went to WrestleMania 33 if you didn't know. If you watch on YouTube, you'll see that I met Goldberg too with my WrestleMania 33 jacket. We've also teamed up with WWE Euroshop and we're going to be giving away a mystery prize bundle. How exciting, gents. All you have to do to be in a chance of winning this is leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, leave a comment about what you're enjoying with the show so far, who we should interview next, and leave your Twitter handle, and we'll pick a winner. And we'll probably try and do it for a couple of weeks too. And yeah, you can win a mystery prize bundle from Euroshop. So thank you, Euroshop, for teaming up with us there. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on your favourite podcast app so that you are the first to know when a new episode launches. Oh, and if you're listening on Apple Podcast, be sure to leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Don't forget to check out the full Dominik Mysterio interview with myself on Sport Wrestling YouTube. That's it from us. We'll see you next week. Let's go home.